Not all superheroes can steal the show with their remarkable and enviable abilities. Sometimes we enjoy reading stories about heroes whose powers are more off-color and whose abilities come with somewhat of a price. After all, Superman is a great ideal when it comes to heroics, but as a reader, it's hard to aspire and associate with a hero so great. Sometimes it's nice to read about heroes who struggle with fitting in to a heroic team and finding their place amongst their peers. It's more believable and makes our heroes more relatable, more real in a sense. And then there are some heroes who simply feel like they weren't quite done baking yet. And were rushed through production without much foresight. Join me in looking at some of these heroes today as we count down the top 10 superheroes with powers no one wants. And if you love some of the more unconventional or bizarre heroes of comics like the ones listed here, be sure to show your support by giving this video a thumbs up. Stick around till the end of the list as well, where I will have some bonus content coming your way. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. Rogue. While admittedly Rogue's powers are super cool, the restrictions they come with are heartbreaking. I think one of the reasons that I love Rogue so much is because her story feels so sad and tragic. You just immediately want good things to come her way as someone who has suffered so much. Rogue can of course borrow or steal anyone's powers and can even take memories via touch. She found out about this ability through her first kiss, leaving her crush Cody in a comatose state as a result of the physical, life-draining contact. As such, Rogue cannot physically touch others. No skin-to-skin contact. No, can't do it. In order to prevent herself from hurting anyone, she would rather not hurt, of course. So I guess she can do it if she wants to hurt people, which sometimes she does. She still feels loved, but not being able to touch anyone again is a huge thing to give up, unless you are able to gain further control over your powers, as Rogue has done in the past, though she is often still presented as that fateful, untouchable mutant that we were first introduced to. And who we all kind of want to touch, let's be honest. Number 9. Rainbow Girl. Rainbow Girl's powers would be cool if they weren't, well, kinda sexist. When they reintroduced her again in Action Comics much later on, around issue 862, they did however try to at least make her a bit cooler. But still, DC, just let it go. Stop trying to make Rainbow Girl a thing. Her abilities, when more delved into, were explained as allowing her to harness the powers of the emotional spectrum. Kind of like being able to harness a little bit of the power of every type of lantern. Unfortunately, this also affects Dory herself, giving her huge mood swings. In other words, when she uses anger to make her more feisty and presumably strong, it was never fully explained, she also gets angry. So mood swings are kind of part of this superpower package. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather not be furious one moment, crying the next, and bubbly and gleeful following after. It sounds exhausting. And doesn't sound like it would make you a great teammate. I mean, who wants to be on a team with someone like that? I don't know, maybe you want to be on a team with somebody like that. Let me know in the comments if that's you. If you support it. All the mood swings. Number 8. Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl originally was able to bite really hard and communicate with squirrels. While her powers have become better over time as her character became more popular, it's still likely that not many would want to have her abilities, despite the fact that she now has a healing factor and is also super strong. I personally think Doreen Green is adorable, and that her ability to make friends with just about anyone would be quite useful. But that isn't so much a power as it is just unique to her as a person. As for her squirrel abilities, they have come in handy a surprising number of times, but if you had to choose between Superman and being squirrel-like, I'm sure many of us would choose the more traditional, glamorous, and powerful abilities of Superman, and less of us would choose the more adorable Squirrel Girl powers. Sadly. We're my Squirrel Girl fans. Shout it out in the comments. I know you're there. I know you're watching. Number 7. Hindsight Lad. Hindsight Lad never really had superpowers, though really this list isn't about superpowers, it's just about general powers, ha ha ha. And while he may not be super, Hindsight Lad still had a couple of things to offer. His big thing being his abilities as a tactician. He gets his name from such abilities as someone who could look back on the actions taken in a battle and figure out what could have gone better, retroactively seeing where mistakes were made. The key word here being retroactively. While learning from one's mistakes is highly useful and should be considered an asset, no one likes the person who keeps popping up to point out where you went wrong. Now, if his name were Foresight Lad, that would be a different story. Everyone wants to know how to be better before they mess up. Offered that opportunity to be perfect the first time around. As long as your precog abilities are accurate, of course. which is kind of just the problem with this whole category of abilities before or after the battle is done. The potential for not having clear clairvoyance or the doubt in someone's abilities being called into question. Number 6. Madame Fatale. Richard Stanton's super skills were his art of disguise, his peak physical condition, and his investigative prowess. He was also super rich, kinda like Batman, except instead of dressing up like a bat, he chose to disguise himself as a little old lady no one would ever suspect. While I personally love cross-dressing and would personally love to disguise myself as a little old lady, I can imagine this very particular skill of becoming a convincing old lady would not be what most people would want when it comes to being a superhero, even if it did come with the strength and intelligence that Stanton also possesses. Unless do you want to be a really old lady? I don't know. If you want to be an old lady convincingly, then this is for you. You could be Richard Stanton too. Number 5. Bailey Hoskins. Bailey is known as the worst X-Men ever. Why? Because his ability is pretty useless. He can self-detonate, but he can't regenerate. So it's like a one-time ability. An X-Men, worst X-Men ever, Bailey still manages to make this power feel more meaningful, sacrificing his life for what he believes is the greater good and taking out Lord Riches, who has become a dystopian fascist leader in this alternate world. When it turns out that Miranda, his friend who appears to have reality-altering abilities, claims to be responsible for the reboot of the Marvel world on multiple occasions, but cannot change it this time, Bailey aims to save the world himself. He blows himself up while talking with Lord Riches, killing him and saving the world from his evil reign. I mean, I still wouldn't want his ability, but dang, Bailey is a cool mutant dude. I like him a lot, but also it's not a great ability. It's not a good power. Sorry. Number 4. Arm Fall Off Boy. Arm Fall Off Boy just has a pretty useless ability. His power is that he can detach his limbs. If you could find a way to make it handy, get it? Handy? Oh, see what I did there? I could see it being valuable, but in most cases this power has not proved to be super useful for him. You could, I guess, detach a limb and beat someone with it, but why not just grab a club, or better yet any other weapon less prehistoric than a club? And assuming you have as little control as Arm Fall Off Boy sometimes does, there is a chance that this ability could activate without you wanting it to. One time in a battle, Arm Fall Off Boy got scared and his limbs just all came off, so yeah, it's not very useful. Number 3. Stone Boy. Stone Boy can turn to stone, though his powers would be a lot cooler if he could actually move while using them. Originally, whenever he turns to stone, he can't move at all, becoming simply a statue when transformed, as opposed to anything useful. Eventually, he did learn to move, but it took him a while, like a long while. Assuming you would have to spend an amount of time working hard to figure this ability out, this power seems like it would be too freaky to me. If you are claustrophobic, or you have ever experienced sleep paralysis, which I have, this power would likely at first be downright triggering. I don't need any superpowers that will almost guarantee that I suffer from PTSD. No thank you. Though, let's be honest, if I was a superhero, I'd likely suffer from PTSD at some point anyway, because trauma is part of a superhero's life in comics, it seems. Number 2. Zeitgeist. Probably one of the grossest ones you could have. The power to throw up acid vomit. Why would you want this power? Let's just take a look at what happened when Zeitgeist powers activated, shall we? As Exhibit A, as to why you would not want these powers. A standing for all the reasons, as is truly the only proof that you'll need that these are not powers that you would want. Axel's powers activated during a drunken makeout session with a girl on a beach. The passion was broken up when Axel started vomiting acid on her, forever burning her face, a moment that would continue to haunt him for the rest of his life. Number 1. Maggot. It's more the way that this ability manifests that makes it problematic. Maggot has 2 giant living maggots for intestines that can leave his body and return to him, powering him up after they feast. But in order to leave and return, they have to move painfully through his stomach wall. It's kind of like that scene from Alien every time he uses his power. In fact, his ability is so painful the doctors originally thought he had stomach cancer, and he thought that he actually only had a short while to live, until he discovered his strange mutant ability. Also, sorry to Maggot fans. I feel like there's so many Maggot fans that are always like, why you gotta bring him up? Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope this list enlightened you somewhat in hindsight of some heroes whose powers you may have overlooked. One thing I will say is just because no one wants their powers doesn't mean these heroes still can't be outstandingly useful or successful. Squirrel Girl especially manages to handily defeat some of the most acclaimed supervillains in Marvel. Who are some of your favorite overlooked superheroes? What powers would you not want to have? What powers would you most like to have? Let us know in the comments below. Speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos. Top 10 superpowers you didn't know Gambit had. Bartman1482 asks, why have you guys not done a video like this about Storm? She's so many powers that go unnoticed or not talked about. I am sure we'll get there eventually. I personally would love to see a list done for Storm about all her powers, and their various uses. She is such a talented and powerful hero and X-Men member. Rosemary Snape comments, I love Gambit so much. I wish that movie would come out. Alas, it has been cancelled. But don't fret, I am sure we'll get a Gambit movie eventually. And hopefully we will also get a Rogue film too. Just all the X-Men. Let's make movies for everybody. Solo movies for all of them. Also, nice avatar pick, Slytherin Power. And that's all the time we have for comments in this video. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts featured in a future video. And if you like what we do here, be sure to ring our bell so you never miss another nerdy list. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you, as always, to stay nerdy, YouTube.